it will start transmitting on.
Individual. One brave person. I'm not gonna tell you what the contract is. Let's see who's gonna sign it. Somebody. Silent. Be silent. Be silent. I need a brave individual. Let's go, buddy, right here. Yeah, stand up. All right. So, hey, I gave y'all a homework assignment. I told y'all about today that that's something that you need to do. That you need to know the name of every person in your city.
Oh.
So, our brave individual is going to go, hey, you don't know who's next. He's going to go down the line and introduce me to everybody in the city.
We'll have a good show.
He's going to do a 25 push-up. You got to give us, everyone you miss, you got to give us a burpee. Full burpee. That's not a burpee. Oh, you want the... Yeah.
It's just that. Let's see
I don't know what's the burpees y'all do.
That's the burpee.
How does this show?
What? How do y'all do? You know the burpees. Show me the burpees.
Yeah, it looks like it's good.
Okay, sure. Come on, let's go. Let's start. All right, tell me your city.
City of Skultety.
Stand up.
Stand up, y'all.
Hey, we need complete silence in the room.
Do we want to do our thing first?
Not yet, we got time.
Not yet. Okay.
Just tell us who we got here.
Now,
I'll tell you if you want.
first off, we have Hayden. We have Crosby. We have Sawyer. We have Chance. Yes, Chance is ran for Evan. Sam.
Can't help.
That's one.
That's one. Okay. He's doing all right. He's doing good. I know him by a nickname. But okay, I'll take a nickname.
Governor.
Okay.
Oh!
Okay. I'll take it.
Isaiah.
I was gonna say, how you know the city by the name? Now.
Two. Denver. I got two. Denver. Arnav.
Hey.
Louis. Larry. Yes.
Larry.
Trevor.
That's good. Hey. What we got? Is he on 3? Hey, y'all stop with that. See it in? I give you a C. Oh, you got more. Tell us mine. Can I get a boys? Stay. Can I get a boy? Stay. We're gonna call it T and we'll round it up. No! Bonus point. Go have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat. Can I get a boy? Stay. 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 Can I get two boys? Stay. Clap that up. 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 How you feel? Good. How you feel? Fired up. How you feel? Good. How you feel? Fired up. How you feel? Good. How you feel? Fired up. Good. Fired up. Good. Fired up. That's crazy. Y'all starting to lose your voices already. That means you're doing something right. Wear it like a trophy. I got something new for y'all after this. I'm just gonna show it to you, and then we're gonna go into it, right? So, don't just watch. Watch it. B B O B O Y B O Y S B O Y S T B O Y S T A B O Y S T A T B O Y S T A T E. Boys Day. Who? Right? And then repeat. Right? Right? Let's go. I'll show you. I'll only give it up. I promise. Watch this. Watch this. Listen. Listen. There's a rhythm to it. Gotta have a little rhythm to it. So we start by stomping. Don't rush now. And it sounds like this. We're spelling boy state. Listen. B B O B O Y B O Y S B O Y S T B O Y S T A B O Y S T A T B O Y S T A T E. Boy state. So look, after you say boy state, this is a little different from how you know it. We're gonna say boy state, and you start over. You start over. So after boy state, you're like a bark, and then B. Let me hear your bark. Ready? Wait. Can I get boys? Stay. Can I get boys? Stay. It's gotta be crisp and all together. So I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, and we all just go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's what's gonna go at the end of it. 1, 2, 3. Listen. B B O B O Y B O Y S B O Y S T B O Y S T A B your boys. There you go. Relax. When we give y'all a chance to relax, you might want to take it. Can I get a boy? Can I get a boy? Can I get two boys? Can I get two boys? Still make it sharp. Come on now. We're going to have people on this campus tomorrow. We got to show them what we've been working on. Can I get a boy? Horrible. Can I get a boy? Come on. Can I get a boy? Can I get a boy? Can I get a boy? Can I get two boys? Can I get two boys? Can I get three boys? Can I get three boys? Can I get three boys? Can I get four boys? Can you count? Watch this. Can I get a boy? Can I get a boy? Can I get 10 boys? Give me cleaner. Here we go. Can I get 10 boys? Boys, they can count. Oh no, we had what? Can I get a boy? See how much y'all pay attention. Can I get a boy? Can I get a boy? Can I get a boy? Can I get 10 boys? Y'all gonna let me crash out. Y'all let me crash all the way out. Come on. Can I get? Pay up. Can I get a boy? Can I get boys? Can I get boys? Can I get a boy? Can I get 10 boys? Chop that up. Chop that up. Chop that up. Chop that up. Okay, watch this. I think it's time. I think they need it. We got the baddest boys state in the nation.
Right on!
We get down in every situation.
Right on!
I said right on.
Right on!
Right on, right on.
Right on!
Let go.
Right on!
We got the baddest boys state in the nation.
Right on!
We get down in every situation.
Right on!
I said right on.
Right on!
Right on, right on.
Right on!
Let's go.
Right on!
We got the baddest boys staying in the nation.
Right on!
We get down in every situation.
Right on!
I said right on.
Right on!
Right on, right on.
Right on!
Let's go.
Right on! B-O, B-O-Y, B-O-Y-S, B-O-Y-S-T, B-O-Y-S-T-A, B-O-Y-S-T-A-T, B-O-Y-S-T-A-T-E. Boys say, ooh, B-O, B-O-Y, B-O-Y-S, B-O-Y-S-T, B-O-Y-S-T-A, B-O-Y-S-T-A-T, B-O-Y-S-T-A-T-E. Boys say, ooh, B-O, B-O-Y, B-O-Y-S, B-O-Y-S-T, B-O-Y-S-T-A, B-O-Y-S-T-A-T, B-O-Y-S-T-A-T-E. Boys say, who? B-O, B-O-Y, B-O-Y-S, B-O-Y-S-T, B-O-Y-S-T-A, three. We built this city. We built this city. We built this city on Skultety. We built this city. We built this city. We built this city on Skultety. All right. Get set. Get ready. Cause here comes Skultety. 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 Skultety. That's my bear.
Dr. Stephen C. Skultety is a professor of philosophy and chair of the Department of Philosophy and Religion at the University of Mississippi. He also serves as the director of the Declaration of Independence Center for the Study of American Freedom, a role he has held since 2021. In this capacity, Dr. Skultety leads innovations to promote academic inquiry into the principles and complexities of American freedom, offering programs such as the Freedom Study Minor and hosting public lectures and research opportunities. A graduate from the University of Montana, Dr. Skultety earned his PhD in philosophy from Northwestern University. He joined the University of Mississippi's faculty in 2006 and was appointed chair of the Department of Philosophy and Religion in 2012. His research focuses on ancient philosophy, particularly Aristotle's political thought, and extends to virtue ethics, republicanism, and democratic theory. Dr. Skultety's work emphasizes the enduring importance of civic virtue, leadership, and public discourse, values that are central to the mission of the voice state. Through this scholarship and leadership, he encourages young people to think deeply about freedom, responsibility, and what it means to participate meaningfully in democratic society. Please welcome Dr. Stephen C. Skultety.
Well, thanks. I didn't know I had a city named after me, which is fantastic. It's such an honor to come and speak with all of you today. And partly what I want to do is I want to tell you about my own personal journey to coming to appreciate America in a different way. And then I also want to tell you about the things I'm trying to do here at the University of Mississippi at the Declaration of Independence Center for the Study of American Freedom. So there's going to be three big ideas I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to hit you with them right out of the gate. And then as we go through, I'll remind you of them. Here are the three big ideas. First big idea, you don't live anywhere, you live somewhere. You live in America. Number two, think carefully about your heroes and your zeros. Don't accept the popular narratives about who's worthy of heroism. And number three, I want you to appreciate the greatness of the tradition of American ordered liberty. All right, so those are going to be my three big things I'm going to talk about. So let's go first to this number one. You don't live anywhere, you live somewhere. All right, so when I was your age, I'm going to confess something. All right, I was all in to math and physics, right? I don't know if any of y'all, if you out there are into the sciences, which is great. We need people in the sciences. But I was only interested in thinking, I guess, about the universe, about math, things that were true everywhere, all time. And I really just kind of went through life not really thinking much that I was born and raised in Colorado. Didn't really think that much about what it meant that I was born in America. Just kind of took it all for granted, and I was focused on the stars, right? I was focused on things that transcended all of this. But then there's something I did. I ended up dropping out of school for a while, for lots of different reasons. But because I wasn't sure, at the end of the day, I was as interested in science and math as I thought. So I moved all around the country for 4 different years, lived down in Louisiana, lived in Montana, state, did a lot of different things. And what I started realizing when I was working in all these different businesses is how hard it was to just keep anything going, right? I mean, I'm sure that's something that some of you already know, but I didn't when I was your age. So I could tell you a lot of different stories. I worked in a store, in a criminal defense firm, I worked in a computer store, magazine store, but I worked in an antique store in particular. It was just me, the owner, and like 2 other ladies, right? We're in this antique store, and here's the thing I was amazed by, I came to appreciate. How much work on a scale of 0 to 10 do you think it takes just to keep a little antique store going? Like just a small town in Spokane, Washington, right? I mean, I know when I was your age, I'd walk down a city street and you just take it for granted. Well, there's businesses. You just take it for granted. You walk in somewhere and people sell you stuff. You just take it for granted that the world is sort of there and you just go through it. Well, here's the thing I learned when I was working for the antique store. Every day we had to fight tooth and nail to keep that place open. Every single day it was a struggle. Sometimes I'd go into work and there was rain coming in through the roof. Some days there was a special customer and I had to go and try to convince them to buy something even though I didn't know that much about antiques. Sometimes I was trying to do stuff on the computer. Sometimes the owner was crying because there wasn't enough money, right, to pay us all. It was really hard, right? It was really hard just to keep that little business going. But she did it, right? Week after week, month after month, and I worked there for a number of years. And during that time, something started to dawn on me that hadn't really before. To make anything work in this world, you have to kind of appreciate the opportunities in front of you. If you take them for granted, they'll just disappear on you, right? You really have to stop and think about where you are. And here's something I thought. No one told the owner of this antique store that she should go out and just start a company. No one told her she should just give jobs to 5 people. No one told her she should be working 60, 70, 80 hours a week just to keep that little place going. No one told her all of that. She did that all by herself, and I had just been taking that for granted. Right? So think about it. It started to dawn on me, how is it that we live in a country where you just can do things like that? It never dawned on me before. How is it that you live in a country where if you have an idea, you want to start a store, maybe you're in clothing, you're in antiques, maybe you want to sell, I don't know, computers, whatever. Isn't it amazing you can go and just start something like Carol Worthington did, right? It started to dawn on me, I had just gone through my life taking all of that for granted. Taking for granted that people like Carol existed who had individual initiative. Taking for granted that there are people out there who just start their own businesses. Taking it for granted that people out there create opportunities for other people to take advantage of and enjoy. I had just been assuming all of that. And to be honest with you, I started to feel like I had been kind of stupid, right? I mean, I'd always been a really good student, but it sort of dawned on me I'd been going through life as kind of a dummy, right? Here, let me give you some analogies. Suppose this year, the beginning of I don't know, November, your mom or your dad took you aside and said, look, we've been talking, we want you to cook Thanksgiving dinner this year. It's on you, right? It's all on you. You're going to be cooking Thanksgiving dinner this year, right? What do you go out and do? Yeah, you start making a list. You're like, yeah, I gotta buy some ingredients. And how do you know what ingredients to buy? You start look. You ask your parents, you ask your family. You say, how do you make that again? What's the recipe for that? Right? Or you go out and you start looking it up. And here's what you don't do. Here's what you don't do. The morning, right? The morning everyone's going to come over and eat. You don't just say, you know what? What's in the cupboard? We'll just throw that out there, right? You have to think about the ingredients you're going to be using. You have to know what the recipe is if you're going to actually create a meal that anyone is going to care about or enjoy. Or here's another analogy. Suppose you go back to high school, right? And this summer, the calls you up and says, look, I've heard you're talented. I want you to be the coach next year. You're going to be coaching our football team. What do? You start, well, who are the players? Who's playing for me? What are the plays they've been practicing? What are the formations we've seen last year? How am I supposed to know what everyone does in these different roles? I better know the rules of the game. I better know the roles everyone has. I want to know who these people are. Right? I hadn't been doing that when it came to my own country. And here's what I love about this event at Boise State, and here's why I'm so proud that all of you are here, right? You're here because people have identified you as upcoming, talented political leaders of America. And they want you to know what the ingredients are before you start cooking any dishes. They want you to know what the rules of the game are and the roles different people have in those roles before you start calling the shots, right? That's an amazing gift, right? It's fantastic that at your age, you're already thinking about the rules of the game and the ingredients before you guys go out and start making the shots that are going to change this country, right? So good on you for being a lot smarter than I was at your age. All right. Second big principle. Think about your heroes and think about the zeros. Do not just accept popular narratives about who's the good person and who's the bad person. You need to think about that and think carefully about it, right? Now look, the little story I told you about my own life, right? When I was going to work every day at that little antique store, I mean, when I first started out there, I didn't really care that much. I was just there to make some money, get a job, right? But over time, I started thinking like, gosh dang it, every day I go to work, I should be going in and like telling Carol Worthing, she's a hero. She just created this thing out of nowhere from her own initiative. She's working her butt off all the time to keep that place running, right? And how is it that I had gone through life not thinking of people like her as my hero? And it just thought heroes were these big national figures and that's it. Why hadn't I been celebrating leaders in my local community, in my state, right? Why had I just assumed, right, that the people doing their jobs and making opportunities for everyone, why aren't those the real heroes of our country? And here's the answer, I hadn't really thought about it very much. I had just sort of accepted what the media and our culture had kind of told us. I hadn't really thought about who's doing the work to make this country great. And the reason this is so important is I want you to stop and think about how terrifying it was back when America was created, right? Back when we revolted from the British, back in the 18th century. I know you all have heard of the American Revolution, right? I know you all have heard about the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I know you all have heard, right, the story how we threw off the British, right? And the 13 colonies came together and created a United States. You've all heard that, right? Here's what you maybe haven't heard. Of the population at that time, only a third of the colonists were for the revolution. A third of the colonists were against revolting from the British, and a third didn't really care. They weren't sure what they thought about this whole big thing, right? So stop and think about that for a second. So imagine you're in revolutionary America, right? Who's your hero going to be? Who's your zero going to be, right? If you had just gone with the flow, it wouldn't be clear who you should be thinking, who you should be favoring, who is going to be able to create a better country going forward, right? Just going with the narrative isn't enough. And those guys sacrificed a lot, right? 5 of the guys who signed the Declaration of Independence were captured by the British as traitors and tortured before they died. 12 had their homes completely ransacked and burned. 2 lost their sons. Another had sons captured. And 9 of the 56 fought and died for wounds they fought during that Revolutionary War. And imagine if they believed that not even everyone was behind them, right? It was not united. They had to fight tooth and nail. They had to fight through really hard things, even though it wasn't clear how much support they would have. Think how the bravery that takes. Think of the leadership that takes, right? And think about how much they had to think about who was worth their attention and who they should be proud of. All right. Here's the next thing. So when I got back to school, right? When I got back to school, I ended up going back to the University of Montana and went on to Northwestern. By that time, I had realized how much I had been taking for granted all of those years. And I wanted to get a much better understanding of the country that I lived in. I wanted to understand all those things I had been taking for granted all of those years. And so I began studying and thinking about the tradition of American ordered liberty. Here's the thing. Freedom and liberty are really hard to understand. They seem obvious, but they're not. And that's why it's so easy to take our tradition for granted. And what I'm going to say to you now is a few words just to make you sort of appreciate this amazing recipe, these amazing ingredients, these amazing rules of the game that you have by being born and raised in this country that's always doing its best to live up to our ideals of freedom and liberty. What does it mean to be free? Someone think about that for just a second. You don't mind, look, if you're free, what does that mean? Right? Okay. Oh, all of you. Actually, well, yeah, okay, yeah, sure, why not? Go ahead. What in the back there, waving the hand? What would you say? What's free? If I say you're free, what does that mean? Yes, go ahead and stand. There we go. Yeah, good, right? Good. That's good. That's a good answer. That's one of the great answers. Here, let me just rephrase it just a little bit. Here's one meaning of freedom. When you have a desire, right? You can go ahead and act on it without people interfering with you. Right? You can make choices without people interfering with you. That is one of the great meanings of freedom. But that's only one. Here's a thought experiment. This, for those of you who are in the city of Skultety, this will maybe land. Oh, yeah. Imagine you lived under a king. Forget the United States government. It doesn't exist anymore. Imagine you lived under a king who had absolute and total control over every single thing in this country. Everything. But luckily for you, the king loves you. Just loves you a bunch. And says, you know what? I love you so much. Do whatever you want. I'm not going to interfere with you. Okay, how many people think you would be living in a free country in that situation? I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can make any choice you make, right? So why aren't you free? Yeah, no, right there. Yeah, right there. Yeah, what do you say? You think you would be free? Okay, no, fair. And partly you're right, because partly, like we heard before, you can choose anything you want. He gets anything he wants. So why not think that he's free? Yeah, right here.
I don't think he's free.
Why not?
You can only do what you want under the consent of the king. You had to have his consent first to do what you want.
Okay, now think about that for a second. Yeah, that adds a twist, right? You can only do what you want as long as the king is okay with it. Suppose you woke up tomorrow morning and the king woke up and said, you know what? I don't even like that guy. What was I thinking? And that king decides you are now on the enemy list. Now that king just throws you in jail. That king just locks you up. That king just kicks you out of the country. That king just takes all your property. Why not? He can do whatever he wants. Right? So here's the idea the founders had. It's the second idea they had about freedom. Freedom does mean being able to make choices that aren't interfered with. That's one meaning. But here's the second, right? You live under the rule of law, which means things can't be just arbitrarily affecting you. Power just can't change its mind one morning and just change all the rules of the game or take you off the street or do whatever. We live in a country of laws, so that, I mean, maybe sometimes you can't do what you want, but at least you know what the rules of the game are. You know what the overarching construct and constitution and laws are. And without that constitutional structure, without some sense that you're living under rule of law, you're not free, according to the founders. But that's not all. That's only the second meaning of freedom. There's another meaning of freedom out there. This one goes all the way back to ancient Greece, right? Even before that. Let's suppose you can do whatever you want. Let's suppose you live in a country where there is no king, and instead, there's a rule of laws. Imagine you're in that situation. But you're horribly addicted to something. You're an addict, right? Or you have a terrible habit you cannot shake. Are you free then? Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Even though the world is set up for your freedom, your soul is not free. Your psychology isn't free, right? You can't control yourself. So this is an old idea. Is that to be a free human being, you have to be someone who's self-disciplined, and you have to be someone who can control yourself. If you can't do that, no matter what opportunities come your way are going to be worthless. You won't be able to enjoy the free country you live in, right? So this is the big idea. Freedom, instead of just meaning one thing, freedom is like the three legs of a stool. And you need all three or the stool falls over. You've got to be able to make choices that aren't interfered with. You've got to live in a country where there's a rule of law, not just some arbitrary king. And you've got to be a person who's self-disciplined, right? And who can take control over yourself and your own psychology and make your own decisions. And without those three, you won't be free, and you won't really come to value the tradition of American ordered liberty. So remember, all three of those things are important if you're going to be free as an American. And that then brings me to the final thing I want to talk about today, which is what I've tried to do with the Declaration of Independence Center for the Study of American Freedom here at the University of Mississippi. When I first took over the Declaration Center back in 2021, I really wanted to make sure that I was going to create new opportunities for students to be able to appreciate and learn about the things I've been talking about today. And so the first thing I did is I fought to create a Freedom Studies minor here at the University of Mississippi. And part of that minor is that you're able to take Freedom Studies classes. And again, the idea is that freedom is that hard to understand. It's that complicated. Let me just give you some examples of classes we now offer. Freedom Studies 101, Ideals of Freedom in the U.S. Founding. Freedom Studies 301, Free Markets. Freedom Studies 303, Liberty and Empire in American Statescraft. Religious Liberty, Liberty in the 14th Amendment, Liberty and Equality, and then one we're offering this fall is the separation of church and state. The Declaration Center also sponsors and operates a number of big lectures. And for instance, I've heard some of you were here when Senator Tim Scott came to deliver a lecture here at the University of Mississippi, and we're proud to host him. But we also have a weekly discussion group where we invite important politicians and community members and academics to come and have a conversation with our Freedom Studies students. So for example, former Governor Haley Barbour, Senator Roger Wicker, the podcaster Gad Sad, and Attorney General Lynn Fitch have just been a few of the people we've invited to meet with our Freedom Studies students. We also started a Freedom Studies Scholars Program with an accompanying scholarship, where we offer $2,500 a semester if you're a Freedom Studies scholar and you engage with us in crafting what it means to be an American who understands freedom. And if all of that or any of that sounds interesting to you, of course, we're on social media, we're on Instagram and Facebook and all the rest of it. So I hope you appreciate the experience you're having here at Boys State. I hope you keep your eye out for everything that the Declaration Center is doing. And also, I hope you treat your citizens of Skultety well and with respect they surely will come to deserve during this Boys State. So thank you very much. I'm happy to take
All right, y'all can sit back down, and at this time, please raise your hand if you have any questions you would like to ask.
got one in the middle there.
Hello, I'm Xander, and I'm from Pontotoc, Mississippi. And my question is, would you define freedom as John Locke defined it in Consent of the Governed? The more freedom you're willing to give up on a personal level, the more freedom you have as a group and as a society.
Yeah, I think, I wouldn't say, I think there's a medium. There's kind of a golden mean there, right? You do have to, I mean, think about if you lived in a country where you had complete freedom to do whatever you wanted anytime and there was no government and you lived under pure anarchy. How's that freedom gonna look, right? I mean, you might be able to get by for a day or two, maybe for a few weeks. You're gonna be toast, right, after a while. Someone's gonna use their freedom just to like take your stuff or murder you or do whatever, right? Pure anarchy just doesn't work. So you've got to give up some of your just pure, unfettered, natural freedom so that you can live among other people under some sort of set of laws, right? So that, in that sense, I actually do agree with Locke that to be free, to experience and enjoy your natural freedom at all, you're gonna have to live under rules with other people. Now, as I was talking about earlier, be very careful about making sure you follow people who are good at creating those laws, right? Pick your legislators well. Make sure that the people in Congress are creating laws that really do value your natural freedom, right? That's an important thing, and you should feel responsibility about that and keep an eye on them to make sure that they honor that freedom that you're giving up so that we can all live together in society. It's a great question. Actually, he's giving the mic to that. You'll be next. No, sorry.
Matthew Dindy, I'm from Houston, Mississippi.
Hey, man. Go ahead.
What I was going to ask is, do you believe that when countries associate religion in their law and in their country, if that affects freedom itself?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you can kind of even tell in the description I had earlier, right? Here's an important idea. Here's an important idea. I mean, there's, I guess, two big parts of that. First of all, what kind of truth does set you free? What kind of thing do you need to believe so that you spiritually will be a free person? Right? I was born and raised in the Lutheran Church. My grandfather was a Lutheran minister, right? And he would often talk about this, is that for him, he sincerely believed that only by deeply believing, right, in God and the sacrifice that Jesus made, would you be able to be free in your soul, right? spiritually, right? You can only get a grip on your psychology through religious belief, right? Now, there's been other religious traditions that have their own view of that. There's been other people in Western culture and civilization, right? But there is an idea there that you have to believe in something higher in yourself if you're going to think that there's something bigger than just your desires to do this, that, and the other thing. And the other idea, a deeply religious idea, is that not all laws are just created by human beings. Yes, your legislators go to Congress. Yes, your legislators write things, get bills passed that turn into law. But there's been this idea that beyond those laws that are natural laws, right? Laws that exist independently of you or me or any other human being. And that human beings, to pass good laws, should make sure that their human laws match those divine laws. Because they're the ultimate kind of goalposts, right? The ultimate kind of guiding lines for knowing whether our laws are good or not. So there's a very long tradition, both in this country, in Western culture, and in Western civilization, that definitely thinks that there's a close relationship between spiritual freedom, the rule of law, and religion. Absolutely, that's the case. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
All right. With your definition of freedom being to kind of self-discipline, is that right?
That's one of the three. Yeah, it's like a tripod. It's like a stool that has three parts, and you need all three.
Yes, sir. How would things like drugs and gambling and alcohol hang on that?
I mean, what do you think? Actually, what do you think about that? It's an interesting question. Yeah.
I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a hard thing. Look, all of us have desires. You're all going to have to kind of navigate these really difficult choices. And look, we all want to enjoy things in life, right? I mean, we all want to be able to go out and watch, you go watch football, you go watch baseball, right? You have a favorite TV show you want to watch. You're like, oh man, I love that, right? I want to spend my time doing it. So we can all kind of get addicted in some ways to this and that and fall in love with different kinds of things. So just the fact that you get super interested and you love something, that can be okay. The question though is, when do you start doing it where it's the one in control instead of you? If you get to a point where like, I wish I would be doing other things today, but I'm so addicted to whatever, alcohol, I can't. Or even I'm so addicted to gambling, I can't. I know I should be doing all these other things with my time right now, but I can't. I've got to feed my addiction. There is a line where you lose control over yourself, right? And this is one of the hard things you all are going to learn. As you mature, as you get older, you're going to have to learn where that line is and walk that very carefully and be honest with yourself about whether you've gone too far. So, but if you lose that, you won't be free. So it really is something to be eyes wide open about and to be honest about and look truthfully into. Great questions. Great questions. You guys are knocking out of the park here. Yeah.
I'm Jonas May. I'm from Flowood, Mississippi. Do you think, so like you were saying, like freedom in like yourself spiritually, do you think emotions and like the feeling of love can take away your freedom as like in your soul, I guess?
Yeah, this is one of those delicate balances. Yeah, it can if you love the wrong things. Depends what you love, right? There's nothing wrong with loving your country, right? There's nothing wrong with loving your family. There's nothing wrong with loving, someone who's the love of your life, right? That's important. And it's good. You don't want to miss out on having great loves. You don't want to turn into the person who says, I don't love anything. It's all the same to me. Whatever happens, happens. Don't be that person. You want to have great loves, right? So it's not a matter of not having love. The question is, what do you love? Right? What do you wake up in the morning thinking, you know what? I love. That's what you need to think about. Get your loves right, right? I think loving your country is one of those ones that should be high on the list because it'll give back to you in the long run. Right? Over and over. Actually, this brings up a good point. I'm not, look, I guess TMI here a little bit. I've had lots of difficulty with my dad, right? Been a tough relationship at times, right? I love him dearly, but he's made some mistakes, right? Turns out, sometimes people you love can make mistakes. Hey, and look, it's the same for your country. Sometimes your country can get stuff wrong, right? It's hard. It's hard to go through time. But that's a different question. Whether something is always right or wrong, that's different than whether you love it, right? And loving your country means actually loving it, even if it does make some errors, right? That's an important thing, just like for your own family, right? Or your friends, or someone you fall deeply in love with. So, it's not a matter of whether to love. I say yes, love deeply and passionately. Make your life wonderful that way, but make sure you love the right things. That's the important choice.
Hi, my name is Spectre, Mission Springs.
I'm not sure your mic is on, approximately.
Alright, I can just talk.
Yeah, I can hear.
My name is Max, Mission Springs, and I understand if you don't want to answer this, but both political parties that are typically the most power usually say that whenever the opposite party has present power, that our country's kind of freedom is in question. Do you think that is a possibility in the future? Is that just like a fear-mongering tactic?
Look, I think no political party. I mean, what is a political party, right? A political party is trying to find different coalitions of interests that are more or less on the same page, right? And that's really hard to pull off, right? Parties are incredibly complicated and difficult, right? And so my hat's off actually to the people, the sincere, patriotic people in both parties. Hats off to them because it's super hard work to get people to work together. I mean, I'm going to make a prediction. I went and talked to some other of my students who participated in Boy State in the past. I said, tell me about your experience in it. And they all said it was wonderful. It's a life-changing, terrific experience. But they said, Ben, it's really hard when you start going into those elections and you're trying to get different coalitions together, right? To get this or that vote to happen. So you guys know about this and you're going to see how this goes forward. It's really hard to get different people together to vote the same way. Super difficult work. So, look, both parties have their strengths and their weaknesses. If you want me to be real honest, I would say that the thing I fear most isn't either party. The thing I fear most is when people in both parties agree on the wrong things. When you get powerful interests in both parties who kind of are linking up to undercut the American tradition of ordered liberty. That's the thing that really worries me. The party politics itself isn't as scary as that deeper thing.
Hey, my name is James Fong, and I'm from Hernando. And I think I really appreciate what you were sharing when it comes to freedom, because I personally think one of the biggest problems for our generation, especially, but just for all of America, even the world, is the low education when it comes to U.S. civics and really understanding our Constitution. I really appreciate what Ole Miss is doing with its program and trying to educate more students when it comes to that, but I would also argue that I think a lot of it starts at high school.
Yeah.
What do you think U.S. legislatures, especially at the state level, for a state like Mississippi, could do to help high school students become more educated on topics related to that, such as freedom?
Yeah, well, I appreciate those comments. Look, I started out as a professor here at Ole Miss, and so that's why I've built the Declaration of Independence Center here at Ole Miss. But as I often tell people, that's just the only reason I started here is that's where I'm a professor. My goal is to expand it way beyond Ole Miss. I'd like to start centers at Mississippi State, USM, other colleges throughout the state, and I'd also like to take the Declaration Center into high school programming. Because I I completely agree with you. If you, once you graduate from high school, still don't know anything about American civics, by the time you get to college, I mean, why all of a sudden would you be walking down the street and be like, oh, I need to go study American civics, right? I mean, by the time you get to college, you're interested in making a big choice about what career you're going into, right? Oh, am I going to become an engineer? Oh, am I going to become a doctor? Oh, am I going to become an accountant? I mean, the thing you're thinking about in college is your career choice. You're not going to say, oh, yeah, and I need to make sure I take plenty of courses on ordered American liberty and civics. So it's absolutely crucial that we start this much, much earlier. I do think that we shouldn't just wait for the federal government to try and fix this on some kind of national-wide scale. The federal government has lots of its own problems. I think the more realistic possibility, and one that I think it's a lot more tangible, is that we get our Mississippi legislators passionately interested in teaching American civics here in Mississippi. I mean, the rest of the country can do its thing, all right, fine, but here in Mississippi, we'll teach kids about our American tradition of civics. And I think that's a doable goal, right? Being in a small state actually has a lot of advantages, and this is one of them. I think we could really make a big educational change in the not too distant future. So I agree with your sentiments wholeheartedly, and that's something I'm working to try to do.
Hey, my name is Addison, Mississippi, and I understand that you're talking about mostly domestic freedoms. Would you feel like those freedoms in question would be in question for like people that come to America for certain freedom, religiously, socially, politically, and would they have a bit of a challenge at those same freedoms when they come to America?
That's a great question. That is a great question. And part of the reason that's such a great question is look, as a country right now, we are having a huge and deep and profound debate about the question you just asked. And look, there are super smart and well-intentioned people on both sides of this debate, right? You all should feel a responsibility to make up your own mind about this one. This is a big one, right? And here's the question, right? Should you, as an American citizen, be trying to make other people around the world free? Or, and that's one option, right? Which is a noble and important idea. So you got to take that idea seriously. That we have that we should be helping others to be free, so that they can have the kind of freedom we have. That is one idea. The other idea is that if America extends its power and influence too far, we'll actually end up undercutting our freedoms here at home, because the quality of our life will deteriorate, right? And there just is this really deep question about how can you bring people to America if they don't share this three-legged stool understanding of freedom, if they think of spiritual freedom in a different way, if they think of the rule of law in a different way, if they think about your ability to make choices without interference in a different way. What if someone comes here who doesn't know anything about that and doesn't really care to know? How does that work, right? Anyway, look, this isn't, there's no kind of quick answer on this one. This is a deep one. And a really smart and well-intentioned people are on both sides of this one, but I think you all should be thinking about this, right? Where should we be trying to improve conditions of American freedom? Here in America or abroad, and bringing people here to share in our tradition? You have to come up with your answer and your own arguments for that. I can't do that one for you. But you put your finger on such an important point. I respect you for answering that or for asking that question.
Hello, my name is Jackson. I'm from Madison, Mississippi, and I was wondering what your opinion was towards the extent to which the government can use fear and rigidness in enforcing certain policies and rules as is exampled in The Prince.
Right. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Machiavelli. However, all of you, if you're going to read Machiavelli, don't just read The Prince. Read the discourses on Livy as well as the Art of War. Both of those are really important as well. But here's the idea of the Prince, or the idea you're alluding to in The Prince. Look, if you're going to live under the rule of law, that better mean something, right? That better mean something. And so any country that has laws is going to have to make sure that something happens to the people who don't care about the laws. I mean, that's right. I mean, if you're, I mean, think about your parents. If they say, okay, there's a rule in this house, you can't stay up past 9, and then at 9 you're like, forget that, right? How does that work? You don't end up going to bed at 9, right? There has to be authority, and there has to be respect of authority, and there has to be respect for authority for the enforcement of law. And so, yeah, some of that's going to be scary. Some of that's going to involve the use of fear. Some of that will involve the use of force. That just is what it takes to make sure that people live by rules. If you don't have that kind of enforcement of rules, you don't have laws, right? And if you don't have laws, you're living in a country where people aren't free. So part of that is necessary. Part of that is necessary. Now, that doesn't mean anything goes. Again, if you want to live in a country of a rule of law, we should have laws and rules about, well, what kind of fear is acceptable for authorities to enforce, right? How do police powers work? We should have all that laid out so we can all see it, and so we all know what to expect. That shouldn't be something that's just made up on the fly.
Finding our heroes and our zeros.
Yeah.
And regarding like a day especially Memorial Day, how do you say we should go about finding those heroes, finding those zeros in a healthy manner, especially as people who are growing up and aspiring to be, good members of our society?
Yeah, what a great question. I mean, I think here's the big thing. You don't even necessarily have to read, but I would say go and look at great figures who are outside of your time and place. It's okay to have heroes and zeros who are your contemporaries and who are living now, but go back and pick some one figure who you've heard about. And you're kind of like, yeah, that person sounds kind of interesting. And actually really get to know them. Like read 2 or 3 books, or go on the internet and really do a deep dive into the nitty-gritty of their life. And the thing you need to be looking for is think about how hard it was to be them. Think about the kind of struggles they went through, right? Think about how scary it was when they were making big decisions, right? For those, it's Memorial Day, remember those who gave their lives, but in particular, don't just scroll through and see flags everywhere. We remember those who gave their sacrifice. Look up someone in your family, right, who was killed in one of our wars, right, and get to know them, read about them, ask questions about them, right, or find some other famous veteran who gave the ultimate sacrifice for country. Read about him or her. Get to know them as an individual. In other words, it's really, you don't have to maybe find, there's no algorithm here, but appreciate the human sacrifice that was made by someone real. Don't just leave it as kind of an abstract appreciation. I think that's the biggest thing I would recommend. I'll tell you just a real personal story, real quick. So my grandfather was a Lutheran minister. He served in World War II. He served on a destroyer in the Pacific. One night out there, they picked up that they were being tracked by a submarine, okay? And so it was stormy, it was very kind of difficult seas, but they just had to go full steam and keep doing these complicated maneuvers to try to ensure they didn't get hit, they didn't get torpedoed, right? My grandfather's best friend was outside on the ship, doing the things he was supposed to be doing, and a wave came and hit him just in the right way where he was thrown overboard into the sea, right? They can't stop and save him. There's no time to throw a life preserver. You can't circle back and get him. They have to keep moving so they don't get torpedoed, right? My grandfather would often tell me that story because he said not a day went by where he didn't think about his friend. That was his best friend that happened to. And he was on the destroyer with him, right? Just imagine what that was like, right? Imagine the sacrifice that guy made, right? I mean, you just get to know the individual stories so you can feel the weight of the sacrifice people made in service to this country. That's the most important thing.
Hi, I'm Alex Martin. I'm from Madison, Mississippi.
Yeah.
This question's more about our prison system.
Yeah.
Because I believe everyone deserves a certain amount of freedom, but if you were to take an action against our law, you deserve less of the freedom. But at what point would you say it's cruel and inhumane to take away these freedoms? Like, what freedoms would you be willing to allow to be taken away, and which ones wouldn't you?
It depends on the crime. It depends on the crime that was committed. I mean, I do think in our country we over-criminalize too many things. Like, I think the statistics show that Americans, I think we imprison, like, per capita, more people than many of the other countries in the world. And I know America has criminals, but I don't know if we have such an incredibly disproportionate number. I don't know why we would have so many more criminals than other places. So, I mean, look, I value freedom so much that I really don't think we should take it from people unless we're really sure that they're guilty and that they've done something that really does deserve punishment. So, I think we constantly have to be thinking about that, looking at our laws, thinking about whether our penalties are appropriate or not. I don't think that, it's just sort of like medicine, There's no doctor who just gets to the point and says, okay, I know everything there is to know about making people healthy. No matter what disease comes in the door, I'm just going to use the same old technique. So, no, doctors are always learning, and I think the same should be the case for our criminal justice system. Look, people go wrong in lots of different ways. People find new ways to go wrong all the time, right? We as a society need to crack down and stop that, but at the same time, we need to be open-minded about what's actually going to make society a good place, and how are those laws going to be effectively enforced. And so it doesn't just come we're throwing people in prison for reasons they don't really need to be there. So we just need to be open and honest and have difficult conversations about it. I know that's not a satisfying answer, but I think that's one of those things that's kind of true, too. All right.
Last question.
Hi, my name is Ben Wallace. I'm from Lucedale, Mississippi. Out of the three pillars of freedom you mentioned, do you think that any take precedent over the other? Like, one is more important, or we should strive for one over the other?
Another great question. As I've gotten older, my opinion about that has changed. When I was younger, I would have said, look, the one that's the most important is that first one. You should be able to do what you want without people interfering with you. That's the most important. The others are kind of sort of important enough. And as I get older, I think that all three really are equally important. Your spiritual and psychological condition, it's so much more important than you think when you're young. The character you have is so important, right? Your ability to control your emotions and be self-disciplined is so important, right? I mean, I'm sure the experiences you guys are going to have this week are going to teach this, right? I mean, I'm sure many of you are going to be in these close contests, right, where you'll want the vote and you're running against some other person or group of people and they'll want their vote, right? And you're going to form these alliances that you're going to count on, and then someone might break from your alliance and you'll be like, what? How can you give up on the alliance? And the emotions will be running high, right? And And the thing you really want to learn to do is you want to have those emotions, but you've got to discipline them, right? Because without having self-control, without having personal responsibility, I mean, no matter what else goes on, it's not gonna matter. But so anyway, as I've gotten older, I really appreciate how all three make an equally valuable contribution to the tradition of American ordered liberty. You have to be a spiritual, psychological person of discipline. You need to live under a constitution and a place where there's rule of law. And you do need to be able to live your life in a way where people aren't interfering with you. All three of those are absolutely crucial. So all three legs of the stool are important. Okay, well, hey, thank you. Thank you for being so attentive. You're going to have an amazing week, and I really am proud of all of you for participating in this incredible program. Nice job.
We love you!
Thank you guys for being so attentive in that speaker session. Thank you for the great questions. It was an intriguing conversation. Dr. Skultety, thank you so much for being here once again. We'll probably be inviting you back to Voice Day. Thank you, sir.